XJR1200. Now this bike has shims in here to do the valve clearances, and if doing the valve clearances on a bike is something that you've never done before and you find it maybe, you know, a bit above your level, maybe in what you're used to, fear not, I would say. I've done the valve clearances on this machine, and you're about to watch that with me now and hopefully learn along the way, and you'll learn from some of the little mistakes that I made when I did the valve clearances on this bike. But really, as far as most bikes go, valve clearances on this machine, pretty simple, pretty easy. Like I say, learn with me now. Let's watch the videos for the XJR1200 and doing the valve clearances, changing the shims. Now, to remove the rocker cover, you have to basically get the oil cooler out of the way. There are two securing bolts, and then there's a lug, and then once you do that, you're at the flexi hose part, so you can just pull that back. You've basically got these plastic ducts that run from the oil cooler to the top of the engine, and with those in the way you won't be able to remove the rocker cover, but you can turn that, twist it round, and then put that down there, so you got the left and right hand one there. Then you are clear to undo the bolts and lift that up and slide it across and out of the way. But unless you remove the oil cooler from there and remove those plastic ducts, you won't be able to do that. But that really was just a couple of bolts. Gently push the oil cooler out of that lug so you don't damage the hoses, and then you twist and turn those plastic ducts out of the way, and then you're clear and you've got access to remove the rocker cover. Once you've removed all the bolts, the rocker cover may come off, but you'll probably find that you need to give it a bit of a tap. You'll know when it works loose because it will change pitch. What you can do is get a block of wood, a longer block of wood, and use it to tap the other bits, and that's what I'm going to do now. And so after a lot of whacking, remove the plugs and the leads, not the plugs but just the leads. So remove your HT leads out of the way. Yeah, after a lot of whacking it has finally come loose, but it took a lot of hitting with that rubber mallet and that wooden piece of wood to get it to come clear. And as always, these things are still never as easy as you'd like them to be, even when you think you got lots of clearance. And this is an easy engine to work on, because the cam chain is so high and the cables are in the way. But you can see it's loose. Just got to get a few cables out the way here, and then I'll be able to slide this out the way. And so finally there is our offending gasket that for whatever reason has been leaking, and it was mostly leaking down this edge here into these fins and a little bit on this corner here. Yeah, so like I say, you got to use that wooden drift really to knock about all over the place to really unstick it. And then what I did is I was able to sort of slightly wobble each side. Don't overly do it because these are the weaker points. The center part is the strongest part, but yeah, don't overly twist that rocker cover here and here. Just give it little gentle wiggles. But I really had to drift the upper part of this section because it was stuck down really well in the center. So as I've got the cam cover off, I'm going to do the valve clearance check. So basically I'm using a Haynes manual just to guide me through, and basically what you need to do is undo this cover here. No oil comes out. That gasket is purely to stop water ingress getting into here, and I'm not sure whether or not this was a faulty gasket or what's happened, but you can see that moisture has got in here and there's elements of sort of water damp corrosion, and see a little bit of rust in there, which is not ideal. So yeah, I'm going to be using a Haynes manual. So you need to basically, using a socket, turn this anti-clockwise until your T mark lines up with here. So that's what I'll be doing. And then once that is in position, as it indicates here, there's a T mark, and you line that up with the mark on here, then that will be in position to then check the valve clearances. So that's what I'm about to do now. So that is the correct position of the timing mark. You can see just below the F there, the T lines up with that line of the pickup across here. But if we look up here, we will see that the cam lobes are facing inward. So what we have to do is we have to go back here and get a 14mm socket on here, turning it anti-clockwise a full 360 degrees, one full revolution, and then when we line that back up, we'll see that those cam lobes will actually be facing outward, not pointing towards each other. So let's just do that and take another look. So 14mm socket, anti-clockwise, back to where we were a little while ago with that lining up, and now those cam lobes are pointing outward from each other. So we know now that that has gone a full 360 degrees, and that is the correct position to now measure on cylinder number 1 the inlet and outlet positions, and then we'll be turning this anti-clockwise again to do the same for these, so they face outward, and then continue all the way along from cylinder 1 through to 4 on the right hand side. Right, so having got that into position at top dead center for the cylinder number 1, we've got our inlet and exhaust valve. So we'll first measure our inlet. Now according to the book, on the intake I should be 0.11 to 0.15. So 0.11 to 0.15. So first we'll check, say, at 0.127 on the intake. It feels like there's not much resistance there at all on 0.127. So let's go 0.152. So 0.152 shouldn't go in there, because I should be between 0.11 and 0.15, and this is 0.152. And there is, that goes in. So in other words, that isn't tight enough. That's a little bit too open. I ideally want to be at 0.14, 0.12, and that is over 0.152. So we're at the end of 0.15 and just getting a little bit too loose. We'll check the exhaust. Now the exhaust should be 0.16 to 0.2. So let's have a look. 0.16. So we'll go 0.17. And on the exhaust, that is too tight. So yeah, on the exhaust it should be 0.16 to 0.2, and I'm at 0.17. If you like, it's easier to say 16 to 20. 0.16, 0.20, between 16 and 20, and this is 17. and that won't go in there, it's too tight. So let's find out where we are with that. 0.127, and that goes in there. So I'd say that is probably about 0.13. So that's about 0.13. So I need to get a pen and start writing these down, because basically we are out of tolerance, and this is only on cylinder number 1, so I am definitely going to need to replace the shims to get these right, and then we'll work our way along and see how the others are. But yeah, definitely. Right, so I've done the valve clearances, at least checked them. So on our cylinder number 1, obviously we have 2 inlet, 2 outlet valves. So on cylinder number 1 on our exhaust valves we've got 0.13 and 0.08, and on the inlet 0.152 and 0.12. This is roughly, because this is like 0.152 is where the feeler gauge will go through, and then the next one up I think I have 0.176. So yeah, that's basically how they read. So obviously I have got, this bike's done, like I say, about 17,000 miles, so I have got some shims to be replacing in most of those valves. So yeah, got to get on now, work out what size I need to take the tolerances to where they should be, get them ordered. I have already bought a shim sort of spring compressor tool to push them down. I'll show you how I use that to remove the shims, but these aren't buckets luckily, so you don't have to remove the cams and do the chain and all that. You just press down on the spring and then you can slide the shim out, but I'll show you that later. So that's what I've got to order up, or at least that's the clearances as they are, and I will figure out what I've got to order out and get on and do that now.